static constructor. So static constructor. To create a constructor, first step is to create a constructor as a static. Okay. Before going to understand what is static, what is static? Static is nothing but static is a keyword. Static is a keyword. First point is static is a keyword. Second point is static is used to create memory dynamically. Create memory dynamically. Memory dynamically. Dynamically for an object. What is object? What is object? It is an instance of a class. You got my point? So without creating an object, we can create memory dynamically. You got my point? Dynamically for an dynamically without creating an object. So how to use a static variable or how to use static method? How to access the static variable or how to access the static method? Static method or variable will be accessed by using a class name. Using a class name. Let me show you. File, new, project. Okay. I'd go for file, new project. I created a console app. Console app. Or you can create a console.NET framework. Next, sample static constructor. Okay. I create a static constructor. What will happen? It will create a project program.cs file. You see? Now you got a system.collection. I don't want all these things. I'm removing because which is no use. Now you see a static method in this class. Okay. So now I'm going to create a class called I'm going to create a class called I'm going to create a class called father. Right? I have a father class. In this father class, I'm going to use static father as a constructor. I'm going to use here, I'm going to say static constructor, executed. Okay. I created a static constructor. Okay. What I did is I created a static constructor. Sir, any constructor, you need an access specifier. Am I right? Any constructor, you need an access specifier. Before that, let me go to program.cs file. Try to use father underscore father. Build the project. Is it successful? Have you got my point? It has succeeded. Now, I create a one more object. I create a one more object with father one. Right? And then console dot read line. Console dot read line. Or you got my point. Now, I am trying to run the project. So how many times this static construct should be executed? How many times this static construct? How many times this static constructor will get executed? As per my program.cs file, how many objects I created? How many objects I created? 2. So how many times your constructor should execute? 2 times, right? That is the actual scenario, right? Now, if you see the program, it will execute only one time. It will not execute for the second time. That means static constructor will use the resource n number of times before it is trying to execute. What I'm saying here is, I create an object for the first time, right? Your static constructor will execute. When you try to create object for the second time, the already created memory of static constructor will be reused. Or you got my point? Already created memory will be reused. Or you got my point? So here, the point here is you create a number of objects. If you are trying to use a static constructor, it will be executed only once. The rest and all can access the same memory. Whereas in normal constructor, every time you try to create an object, it will try to create a memory. It will execute on its own. It will try to create a memory. I can prove you one more point. Let's take an example. Can I have different constructors in my class? So here, I'm going to use public. Before that, can I use a keyword public here? Public access specifier. If you build it, you see a failed. You see a failed. What did he say? Father constructor access modifier are not allowed on static constructor. You got my point? No access specifier will be involved when you say static as your constructor. Point very clear? Point is clear? Now the point here is, I try to create a one more constructor. Public father. In this father, I'm trying to use public constructor executed. Now what will happen? What will happen? When you run the program, you see static constructor executed, public constructor executed for the object 1, public constructor executed for the object 2. But the same static constructor can be used in the public constructor. Clear my point? So what is the purpose of static constructor? What is the purpose of static constructor, ma'am? First point is to create constructor as a static. Second point, static constructor will be executed only once. Even though we create an object for the static constructor class n number of times. Got my point? You are trying to create object for the same static constructor class n number of times, even though we create object for the static constructor class n number of times. Right? Third point, the static constructor memory will be reused across all the objects, across all the objects of the class. These 3 points are more important. What I'm saying, to create a constructor as static constructor will be executed only once, even though we create object for the static constructor class n number of times. Okay. So these 3 points is more important. Let's give a small example. Example program I'm planning. Planning example program is area of circle. Area of circle is equal to pi r into r. Right? Pi r square is your example. Any area of circle, pi r square is your example. Let us do using static constructor. Using static constructor. Okay. Now, how I'm going to do that? Let's go to the program. Here, since the static constructor will be executed only one time and using the same value for n number of objects. That means that, can I hold my pi value here? Can I hold my pi value here? 3.14 is my pi value. Am I right or wrong? So now I am trying to use here public float pi underscore pi is equal to underscore pi is underscore pi. No need to use, just give like this. Okay. Now here in the static constructor, underscore pi is not getting an access. When you say your constructor is static, when you say your constructor is static, always the variable you are using inside the static constructor also be static. So what is your next point here? What is your fourth point? The variable which are used in the static constructor will also be a static variable, right? Will also be a static variable. You got my point? So now go back here. I'm making public static pi. Do you need public static y? I can make it as private because I'm going to use within the class. Why do we need to make this variable outside? Okay, pi is equal to 3.14 f. This is your pi value, 22/7. You got my point? 22/7, the pi value. Now, static constructor, and you go and pass one more variable saying that console dot read line. Console dot write line the pi value is. Can I give like this? Comma underscore pi. Done. Now I got the pi value. Now here public float area public float area alage undu. Pote public float area integer underscore radius. Public float area public float area underscore radius return underscore pi into underscore radius right? Right? So now what? Right? Enough. See, listen. Limit. Now I had a flow. Now go to program.cs file. Here I'm trying to create a father class. My dad is calling. How I am going to call area. How I am going to call area. How I am going to call the area? Underscore father console dot. This నేను టచ్ చేస్తే అవబోతుంది అన్ని ఏమంటావు అంటే నన్ను బయటికి వెళ్ళిపోమంటున్నావు నన్ను బయటికి వెళ్ళిపోమంటే వెళ్ళిపోతా నాకేం ప్రాబ్లం లేదు అండర్స్కోర్ ఫాదర్ డాట్ ఏరియా ఆఫ్ 5 రైట్ డాట్ టు స్ట్రింగ్ okay similar fashion here I can give like this it's better how I am going to give area of circle is ఇది బాగుంటుంది చూడటానికి. Now I'm going to use, here I'm going to pass area of circle is 6, right? So what happened? Let's see. మీకు స్టాటిక్ కన్స్ట్రక్టర్ అంటే అర్థమైపోయింది కదా.